Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. Today we are on part 3 and the final part of our interview with Gabe Brown. It was so amazing to have him. So enjoy the final part of the podcast. And as always, let me know if you need anything, if you have comments, please share this. That would be awesome. Enjoy. So I have another question for you. I have a client that just bought farm ground. He is not a farmer. He is a cattleman. So he just bought some farm ground, 3/4, and it was all done traditional. How does he transition that? Does he plant it into grass? Does he find somebody to put cover crops? What is his first step to put that into regen?
Excellent question. Another lesson I learned the hard way. So back when my wife and I purchased this in 1991, right west of my place, there was a quarter of cropland. Okay, it had been heavily tilled in that by my father-in-law. I wanted to put it into perennials, grasses. So I went to NRCS. What should I seed? Well, you seed smooth brome, intermediate, and pubescent wheatgrass. I seeded the whole thing. Got a beautiful catch, but it wasn't productive. It just sat there and hardly even headed out. Well, I didn't know then what I know now. You see, we had destroyed, because of all the tillage and the synthetics, there was no soil aggregates, there was no water infiltration, there was very low organic matter. So how we do that now, and Mary Jo, I did this on the land just straight north of your place. That was all cropland. What we did is we planted it to a cover crop for several years. Different cover crops. I'd do a spring cover crop, such as oats, peas, some forage brassicas in there, spring barley. Would graze that off. Then I'd plant a warm season mix, sorghum, sudan, millet, cowpeas. Graze that off late fall and winter, always leaving plenty of residue. But think of what we were doing. We were feeding biology. We were cycling carbon. We did that for 2 years. Then the soil was ready. And when we planted the perennials, then we got a much better stand. And you've seen how much forage is there now. It's a beautiful stand of perennial forage. You know,
I thought it was always pasture.
Yep. Nope. That was cropland. That was plowed for years up and down those hills. Highly eroded land, very degraded. And we healed it. But that's the step. What you're trying to do is speed up ecological time. If you take and some farmers do this, they take a cropland field. Well, I'm just going to let it go back to grass. It will over time, but it won't be very productive. But what comes first? Your weeds or your forbs. Then your annual grasses. The perennials are the last thing that come. Well, we're speeding that up by planting what we want right away and getting that soil health improved. Then we seed it to perennials.
Okay, we missed this question when we were talking about the bankers, but we have to convince the neighbors about regen and the guys that we're renting land from. But how do we convince the banker that we need to borrow that money from, that we're not going to spray and use chemical or fertilizer?
We're never going to say that we won't spray and use chemicals unless we're an organic producer. Okay. Otherwise, regen has nothing to do with chemicals. It has nothing to do with fertilizers. We still use those. The difference is we use them in a way that is very calculated and defined by our profitability. Okay, we're not going to use more than what we have to, because we want to rely on the natural system. So how we convince the banker? Here's what we do with many of our clients. We require of them, you need to, say it's a farmer going down this path, you need to dedicate so many acres. And again, that gets back to the risk aversion of the farmer, whether it's one field or a quarter section, whatever the case may be. But you've got to dedicate that for 5 years. Okay, we're going to go down this path. You keep meticulous records on that. Seed costs, fertilizer, etc. And along with the soil test data that we collect. And we show the banker, hey, look how much more profitable I am there. Then you tell the banker, come on, proof's right here. You're the one, you can see it. You're my banker. What we find is with the vast majority of our clients, they will dedicate a certain portion of land. By year 3, they're totally bought in on their entire farms because the difference is that major, that striking. You know, we have never had anybody go 3 years and then drop out. If they stay in 3 years, we've had a few drop out year 1, year 2. They're just not ready. They just didn't want to do it. Okay. But the vast majority of them by year 3, they're 100% bought in because it's so much more profitable and enjoyable. Sure. You know, you can't tell me any farmer likes to go out there and spread copious amounts of fertilizer and write those checks and chemicals and fungicides and pesticides. Nobody likes to do that. We'd rather have the money in our checking account or savings account.
Yeah. And I do go back to the fact that I think it's just so overwhelming that they don't know where to begin. And they're scared that they're going to lose money. And it is the risk and all the other things associated with it. But I just think it's a call to Gabe. Like I went on your website, Understanding Ag, and there's just a big button, you know, ask, or I think it's a consultation, get your consultation or something button, like
free 30
that's all minutes. You have. Yeah. It's all you have to do. And so do it. Like how else do we get started? It's just like when people are like, they're terrified to have their hour and a half consultation with me. I'm like, I'm not selling you anything. Yep. If you don't have any money, we're not doing anything, but I'm here to help. So you can either take it or not. It ultimately doesn't matter to me.
Yep. My phone number is out there. I average between 200 and 400 emails and phone calls every day. Every day. Now, I don't get all of them answered, but I answer as many as I possibly can. You know, and the fact of the matter is my business partners, our consultants are the same way. We're farmers and ranchers ourselves. We saw the difference this has made in our lives. That's why we're doing this. You know, I mean, I could be by the lake fishing now, but but no, I gladly talk to people because I know it can make a difference.
With no time limit. We're bumping up to an hour and a half. Thank you. Okay. So I do have other questions here. What is your advice for, what was this one? From going from selling commodities to selling products.
Yep.
The transition. Yep. How do you transition?
Yep. A saying I like to use is people laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at them because they're all the same. Okay. Why do I want to grow a commodity where the return is very marginal? Okay. When I can do something that can make me considerably more profit. And I use this as an example. My most profitable crop, and I'll use the years starting in 2008 through 2021. And the reason I start then is because 2007 was the last year I used any synthetic fertilizers. My most profitable crop in that time frame has yielded me an average of $976 an acre. Okay. Are there corn farmers in North Dakota getting that kind of net profit per acre? No, not over that span of time. Okay. That's a huge profit. Realize in 2020, the average net profit per acre from corn in the U.S. was $10. Okay. So when you're talking 976, that's a lot. What is it? It's my fall seeded biennials. Cereal rye, winter triticale, forage winter wheat, and hairy vetch. Okay, why is that so profitable? Because I combine it and sell it for seed. Nobody else is doing it. It's not an easy crop to combine. It's very easy to grow, but I'm selling something that nobody else is producing. Okay, why do I want to grow corn when I can grow something like that, make a lot more money? And we just combine that today, as a matter of fact, that crop. Here we are. What is it, August 2nd today? Mm-hmm. Okay, look, I got plenty of time to seed a cover crop in there and cycle nutrients and provide forage, whatever the case may be, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do things that other people don't want to. So what I tell these people is, where's your unfair advantage? As I travel around on all these farms and ranches, you got to look for your opportunities. Okay, one of the real opportunities on our ranch, we grow all these cover crops and these different species. What a better place to have bees and produce honey. Now, Paul's got hives everywhere on this land, owned by an apiary, but he's got an agreement with them and he gets the honey back and sells it. I mean, it's win-win situation.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many opportunities to make money in agriculture, but people they have blinders on, or they just don't, oh, it's too much work. Well, I'm sorry. Work is good for us.
Yep. I think we addressed this one a little bit, but I feel like you might have more to add to it. As this becomes popular, how do we avoid being lumped in as hippies or greenwashing?
Yeah, okay. So the greenwashing is a really interesting
I've
one.
never heard of that term until
Oh
they
no,
asked that
it's very
question.
common.
Oh.
And you see, like right now, the organic is they went through major greenwashing, and they found all this, unfortunately, so-called organic food was being imported and products, and it's really not organic. What we're seeing, a lot of people don't know, besides Understanding Ag and Soil Health Academy, we have another business we recently founded that's called Regenified. And Regenified is a verification company. And what Regenified does, it lines up producers with supply chains. So I spend a great deal of my time right now going to these large companies who make these audacious goals and claims that we're going to source 20 million acres of regeneratively grown wheat or whatever the case may be. I'm just using that as an example. Okay, who's holding their feet to the fire? Who's saying, okay, prove it? Well, my partners and I, because we have a long lifetime of experience in this regen ag, we decided, okay, we gotta make sure this doesn't get greenwashed. So we have developed a set of protocols where we line up supply chains, companies that are looking for certain commodities, food, fuel, fiber, and then we trace them back, line up the farmers and ranchers to produce them in a regeneratively grown way, get a premium for them, realize that our goal is always to put more money in the farmers and ranchers' pockets. But at the same time, those companies then are going to truly be able to go to the consumers and say, we are sourcing our products that are good for the environment. They're sequestering more carbon, increasing the biodiversity on their farms. The water is cleaner on their farms. The nutrients are staying on the land. There's no erosion. We're verifying this now. And I will tell you, we're pretty excited. There will be products launched within the next year that are verified regenerative. We're working with a number of major supply chains, and it's going to be pretty exciting. We're
That is
also,
exciting.
this is kind of going beyond it, but this will tell you what we're working on. A couple other things. We are working with several medical professionals where we're actually doing very intensive testing of products, grains, fruits, vegetables, proteins, to prove out that as you advance soil health, those products are higher in nutrient density. And actually, this year, that work is being done up here in the Northern Plains. Our ranch is one of them where they're doing this testing. We did a lot of testing in the southeastern U.S. last year. What we're seeing is not just a little difference, it's a major difference. And we're testing these products for over 2,200 different phytonutrient compounds and multitudes difference in what we're seeing. The goal is then that will be available for consumers. We're also working with another company that is developing the technology. And it's our hope that within 5 years, there will be an app on your iPhone. You'll be able to walk into any supermarket, scan any product. It'll tell where that product's from. It'll tell the amount of chemical residue in that product. It'll also read the phytonutrient compounds in that product. So farmers and ranchers out there, are you going to be ready for that? Are your soil's going to be ready? Because when consumers are armed with knowledge, they will truly use food as preventative medicine. And when we as farmers and ranchers are able to sell our products as preventative medicine, we're going to see marked increase in profitability. Mm-hmm. Some exciting things coming down the pipe.
That is exciting. Hopefully you don't end up with the dead doctors don't lie people.
Well,
the Rockefellers may not enjoy that piece, Gabe.
I don't care. I've gotten letters from many companies before. It's fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did have somebody post, I have no idea what he's talking about, but he said, can you share the anecdote about bales along the highway when there was a drought year?
Yeah. So this is a true story. Back in 2006, it was a major drought here. And the fall before, I had seeded some of these fields right along Interstate 94 into my cereal rye, winter triticale, winter wheat hairy vetch combination. It laid for a while in the fall before we caught a half-inch of moisture, and it germinated. The next spring, I was out, and it grew up real well, even though we were in a drought. When we literally had only an inch of precipitation May, June, and part of July. Well, by late June, I was harvesting 4-foot tall crop, and I got a lot of bales off it. Well, my phone rang one evening after I finished baling, and gentleman on the other end of the line says, are you the guy east of Bismarck with all those bales north of the highway? And I said, yeah. I thought he wanted to know what it was. And he literally said to me, true story, he said, you need to get those bales off there, because if too many people see that, we won't get disaster assistance. That's what he told me. And I just clicked. I hung up the phone. I was so mad. I thought, I should have read him the Riot Act. But how terrible is that? Instead of him asking, what did you do? I want to do the same thing next year. No, it's all about give me a handout,
Yep. It's the same.
Yep.
I say this all the time, Gabe. Everybody hates Walmart, but nobody asks what Walmart did successfully to get as big as they did.
Yep.
We have big, huge farming operations and nobody asks what they're doing. Instead, we all hate them.
Yep.
We have big ranches. Nobody asks what they're doing. Instead, we hate them. They're controlling everything. Why? Go ask them why. Most likely, they will be happy to tell you what they've done, because successful people want to share their success. Yeah. That's just how the world works.
One of the things I'm most proud of with this regenerative movement, if you want to call it a movement, is the willingness of people to share. I mean, it is unbelievable. I can literally pick up the phone and call any country in the world and talk to regenerative farmers and ranchers, and they're more than willing to talk about it. Just today, I was on the phone with a gentleman from the UK and another one from Japan. They're willing to talk, and they want to talk about it. And that's exciting. I don't look at it as competition. People want to come and learn from me. I'll gladly share,
Yeah. I have a funny story. We were sitting on our deck on Saturday morning. Some old guy that's a neighbor of ours. He just drives the neighborhood to see what's going on, And so he drives down the driveway as slow as molasses. He gets to the house and he honks his horn. And I'm like, we're right here, So he waves out of the window, come here and talk to me. And he tells Scott, you better watch that across the road. That leafy spurge is getting out of control. I'm like, it's not even our leafy spurge. Like,
You want to know the funny thing? He called both Paul and I on that also, and it's not ours, and Paul and I are like, well, our animals eat it, so it really doesn't, not that particular spot. We don't graze that, but
we're like, yeah, we see that it's there.
Yeah.
I just had to laugh, but we did get a business card out of him and a pen. So
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you must have not got a business card and a pen though, because you weren't home. But I just had to laugh. I'm like, he doesn't even like who drives around and then you tell your neighbors that the guy next door has weeds. Yeah,
Yeah.
we know, you know.
Yeah.
All right. The only other question I had was what somebody asked how you like your neighbor, and if Mary Jo and Gabe will do a workshop in South Dakota. So
Yeah.
we're going to have to, next time I have my farm finance conference or a farm conference, I will have to, hopefully you will be available to come and speak and talk to everybody.
That would be great. I would enjoy that. I like my neighbors just fine, and I know I poke fun of them, but they're such easy pickings. I mean, when their fields are blown away and they can't infiltrate water, and you know, in all honesty, I don't mean to belittle them at all, but here's the truth. One of my neighbors, I've been on here since 1983. I'm aging myself now, okay, on this farm. They have, I host tours all the time. We have thousands of people coming onto our ranch every year. They're more than welcome. They've been invited. He's come up my driveway once since 1983. He got stuck, didn't have a cell phone, walked up to see if I'd come pull him out. Other than that, he has no interest. True story about him. So one year, he called and asked me, do you want to bale my straw? He says, I want to get rid of it. And I'm like, oh, man. He doesn't realize how much nutrients are in straw and, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And I said, okay. So he dropped his straw and I go over there and I'm baling it. And I know it wasn't 25 bushel wheat. And he asked me, he said, man, your wheat crop looked pretty good. What did it run? And I said, yeah, it was pretty good. It was all right. It was in the 60s. Well, what variety was it? And he thinks right away it's the variety. Well, no, it had everything to do with soil health, nothing to do with the variety. I just told him, oh, that seed's been laying around the bend for years and years. I wasn't going to tell him about a variety. But the fact of the matter is, if people aren't wanting and willing to learn, I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend a lot of time with them.
Mm-hmm.
I can only talk about the weather so much.
Right.
I need to talk to people who stimulate thought.
I have a question. What are you using? If straw is so good, what am I using straw for? What are you guys using straw for?
Yeah, and well, this was years ago. I won't bring that on anymore because he sprays chemicals on it. But
right, but I mean, if I have straw, if people have straw that aren't sprayed with chemicals, why would we be using those? Because I've only seen straw being used for bedding.
Oh, no. Our cows will eat it. Our cows will eat that stuff. Our cows will live on things most people's won't. The problem today in the cattle business, but most people don't have cattle, they have pets. They provide them with a bed and breakfast. And the average cost in the United States last year to run a cow was $997. Okay. I just worked with a client, believe it or not. Okay. A client who they hired us because this farm manager was just recently hired by the owner of the property. He come on there, did a financial dive, found out it was costing him $1,697 to run a cow for a year. Okay? Now, if that isn't bad enough, they owned 11,000 cows. Okay? Do you know the loss they were incurring every year? Now, after 3 years,
your calf is maybe getting you're maybe getting $800 for a calf.
Well, yeah, 800 to 1,000, depending, a little more maybe now. But yeah, they were losing money major. Okay, now this very wealthy owner, obviously, so they could afford it. But the fact of the matter is that's not sustainable. At least you don't want it to be. And so my point being, most people have no idea what it costs them to run a cow. Okay, you look at how most people, they're feeding cattle 5 months out of the year. You can't do that. This last year, even though the winter, it was fairly cold and there was some snow, We only fed about 70 days, which is more than we normally do. The year before, we fed 18 days is all. Other than that, the cattle were all grazing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
cattle have four legs for a reason. Make them use them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
just people don't look at it economically.
Mm-hmm. Even when we had our April storm is when your guys' cows were over here.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, Paul's going to have those cows off for however, we figured it'd be a week or whatever. It was a couple days, man. And he had cows back out there. And we thought, well, what the hell?
What are they doing? Yeah.
He's got cows out already.
And
we just we didn't expect it because there was still so much snow on the ground.
our cattle will graze through about 30 inches of snow. They can graze
Mm-hmm.
through and do just fine. I tell people, if you think you need to leave those cattle in a corral, go open the gate and see where they want to go. I guarantee you they don't
Mm-hmm.
want to stay in a corral. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting. So the other, we did see that I have seen some people that are doing regenerative and rotational grazing and stuff, and they're not cutting and baling the amount of hay or the amount of grass that we have right now. And I did see that Paul was cutting and baling the other day. And so when do you leave it? When do you graze it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we do is, let's face it, it's North Dakota. We get winter, so we do need some hay. So we try and keep a supply on hand and a bit of carryover every year. Now with the way the last 6 years have been, we've kind of gone through our extra supply. So he's putting up a little more this year than he normally does. But what makes us different, if you look, we don't put up hay on the same land every year. Okay, we'll graze it for a couple years, then we'll hay it for a year. But where we hay it, that's typically where we feed it at. We leave the bales there, and then we do what's called bale grazing. We turn the cattle in and let them eat the bales. You've seen that along the road there.
Mm-hmm.
They eat the bales, and what that does, that keeps the fertility and the carbon all out on the land, and we're cycling it. We don't have to, haul manure and all that, and you don't have cattle standing around in manure and urine in the corrals and spreading sickness. That just doesn't make sense. So, what you do is you will know as a farmer or rancher about how many days worth of grazing you have, and then how many days you're going to need some processed forage. Our goal would certainly be to not feed any hay, but there's some winters can get pretty bad around here, so we're in that environment.
All right. I think I'm not out of questions, but I'm out of my listed questions. So I think that we can end there. Do you now, if people want to get a hold of you, obviously I didn't know there was a 30-minute free consult, so we'd kind of be idiots not to take advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
But where do they go? What do they do?
Yep, they can just go to our Understanding Ag website or our Soil Health Academy websites, and we have a pile of free information on there. I encourage them to take advantage of it. If you want to get a hold of me, it's simply gabe@understandingag.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your 2 hours of time.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for being here. You know the drill. If you have comments, concerns, questions, let me know. MaryJo@withoutthebank.com. If you have not gotten my book, Farming Without the Bank, what are you waiting for? I am not going to bite. And you do read, because if you didn't read, you probably would not have found me. So definitely go to farmingwithoutthebank.com, grab the book, and be on the lookout. If you are in the Cody, Wyoming area, I am going to be in Cody. So be on the lookout for tickets, because you can go to farmingwithoutthebank.com/events, and you will be able to get your ticket for Cody there. It's a $25 ticket. It is not expensive. I just want to be able to cover a rental of a room. That is it. So please make sure that you get your tickets. We will be there September 14th, and it will be an evening presentation. I'm just not sure where we are having it yet because we are still looking for a location. So make sure if you want to you want to see me live and you are around the Cody area that you get your ticket. All right, guys, thanks, and you have a fantastic rest of your day.